This happened a couple of months ago. I was 32 and looking for extra cash, so I agreed to pet sit for my neighbor while they were away. I thought it would be nice to spend time with their golden retriever, Max. The house was in a nice neighborhood. It was calm. Kids played outside, and I heard lawns being mowed. It seemed like an easy job. One night, I was lying on the couch, trying to relax while Max slept at my feet. That's when I heard it. Soft scratching sounds came from the basement. I thought it was just Max messing with something he shouldn't. But when I walked to the basement door, the scratching stopped. It felt wrong. The air felt different. I hesitated but opened the door anyway. I felt a chill. I still don't know why I went down there. It was just darkness, and I didn't find anything. As days passed, things started feeling off. I noticed little things first. One day, I found the remote control moved from the coffee table to the couch. I thought it was my mistake, so I moved it back. Then, I heard the clock in the kitchen. I was sure it was ticking backward. I brushed it off, but still felt uneasy. Max? He got more anxious. He'd sit by the window, barking at nothing. That kept my heart racing. What was he seeing? One evening, while washing dishes, I caught a glimpse of something in the window. I spun around, but there was nothing. Maybe it was my reflection, I thought. I felt silly, but decided to check. I walked to the window and stared into the darkness. I didn't see anything. I took a deep breath, feeling foolish. But when I looked back, Max was by the door. He was barking fiercely, hackles raised. In that moment, I felt trapped, caught between what I knew and something I couldn't explain. What was happening in that house? I had so many questions. Then I saw it again. A figure in the reflection. I spun around fast. Nothing was there, just the empty hallway. My hands felt clammy. I thought maybe it was my imagination. I turned back to the window. Now Max was barking harder. That night I heard it again, soft scratching from the basement. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to block it out. I didn't want to check again, but something pulled me. I reached for the door, feeling that pull. Then I saw something in the hall. I turned, and there it was, staring back at me. I froze, feeling my heart pound. Was it a trick of the light? I wanted to scream, but my voice wouldn't come. The figure was gone in an instant, disappearing down the hallway. I stood there, feeling like I was losing my mind. Max was silent now, sniffing the air. It felt like the house was alive, holding secrets I couldn't understand. When I finally gathered my courage to move, I noticed the scratching had stopped. But something deep inside me knew I wouldn't find peace until I left that place. I walked away, leaving the house behind. But it still haunts me now. I still don't understand what I felt or saw, and I don't think I ever will. The following day, I called my neighbor to check on things. I needed a distraction from the memories. Her voice was cheerful, completely at odds with my own feelings. I tried to sound casual as I asked if she had ever sensed anything strange in her house. There was a pause on the line. "Strange how?" she asked, her tone shifting. I hesitated, unsure of how to share what had happened. "You know, like noises or odd feelings." "Oh, I don't know. Just the usual creaks and groans of an older house," she replied, a hint of laughter in her voice. "You know how it is." I forced a laugh along with her, but her answer did little to ease my worries. Once I hung up, I still felt restless. The house was empty and quiet, but the unease lingered. That afternoon, I decided to take Max for a walk, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind. As we strolled through the neighborhood, I tried to push everything out of my head. It was hard to forget those odd occurrences, yet the sun was shining and kids were playing. I even smiled at a couple of parents as they walked by. But as we turned onto a quieter street, the uneasiness crept back. Max stopped suddenly, his ears perked up. He looked up and stared toward the nearby woods. I glanced around, but nothing seemed out of place. Then I noticed something on the ground. A small piece of cloth. It was crumbled and dirty, tucked under the roots of a bush. I pulled it free, and my breath caught in my throat. It was clothing. A baby's shirt. I looked around, scanning for any signs of a child. Nothing. Just trees and silence. My gut twisted with anxiety. I didn't know if it meant anything, but I felt a chill race down my spine. I shoved the shirt in my pocket, deciding it was better to show my neighbor later. When we returned, I felt a little more anxious. I poured Max some water and tried to relax, but that sensation of being watched returned. The scratching sound from the basement was gone, but an unease built up inside me. I wanted to avoid the basement entirely, but that nagging curiosity remained. Later that night, as I settled onto the couch with my phone, I caught Max staring at the basement door again. He growled low in his throat, and I could feel the tension in the air. I glanced down the hallway, seeing shadows dance in the darkness. Then I remembered the shirt in my pocket. Maybe it was time to find out more. I stood slowly, my heart racing. I took one step towards the basement door and felt the weight of every moment pressing down on me. What was I hoping to find? As I reached for the doorknob, the lights flickered. My breath caught. Then everything went dark. The sudden silence was pregnant with tension. I stood there, swaying in the blackness. And then I heard it. A soft hissing sound, like a whisper. Someone was in the house. I froze. My eyes strained to see through the darkness, but nothing came into focus. The hissing sound grew louder, morphing into a whisper that slithered into my ears. It felt like it was circling around me, searching for a way in. I wanted to shout, to scream, but my voice felt caught somewhere deep in my throat. Max whined softly at my feet, his body tense. I remembered the baby's shirt in my pocket, a sudden impulse firing through me. I pulled it out and held it tightly in my fist, hoping it would somehow protect me from whatever was lurking in the shadows. The hissing stopped. Instead, a new sound emerged. A faint tapping, rhythmic and deliberate, coming from the basement door. I strained to listen, my heart pounding in my ears. Each tap felt like a countdown to something terrible. "Hello?" I finally managed to whisper. Nothing. Just silence, thick and suffocating. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was in my house was one step away from breaking through. Summoning every ounce of courage, I took a cautious step forward. The darkness seemed to thicken around me, but I gripped the doorknob tightly and twisted it. The door creaked open slowly, and I felt the chill emanating from the basement. I peered into the abyss below where shadows clung to the walls. The light from the living room barely reached in, but I could see the outline of the stairs descending into darkness. I decided to call out again, needing a response. "Is anyone down there?" A soft rustle came back, barely audible. It sounded like movement, quick and deliberate, as if something was coming up the stairs. I stumbled back in alarm, colliding with a table. A lamp tipped over, crashing to the floor and shattering, casting shards of glass around me. With a jolt of panic, I turned and ran, straight towards the kitchen. I needed a weapon, something to defend myself. As I rifled through the drawers, I heard footsteps on the basement stairs, slow and purposeful. My breath caught in my throat. I turned to Max, who stood still, his body coiled like a spring, ready to react. That's when I saw it. A flicker of movement in the darkness beyond the basement doorway. Something small, but unmistakable. A shadow, shaped like a child. The hissing returned, now twisted into a playful giggle. I didn't want to know who or what it was. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen counter and faced the door. My hands trembled as I gripped the handle tight. "Stay back!" I shouted, my voice breaking. The giggle stopped, replaced by a low chuckle that echoed off the walls, chilling me to my core. The figure moved closer, almost gliding. I focused on that darkness, waiting, heart racing. I had to know what was happening, but deep down, a part of me screamed it was a mistake. The next moment the lights flickered back on, illuminating the room and the doorway. There was nothing there, just the basement, quiet as ever. My heart sank as my eyes darted around, hunting for any sign of what I'd seen. And then I noticed something. The baby's shirt had slipped from my grasp, draping over the edge of the kitchen counter. A breeze swept through the room, cold and lingering, and I knew I wasn't alone. I stepped back, every instinct telling me to run. But the whispers of the past beckoned me forward, demanding answers. I had to find out who was playing games in my house. Yet, at that moment, all I could think was how tightly I needed to grip the knife in my hand. I took a deep breath, still clutching the knife, as I scanned the room for movement. The cold air prickled my skin, making it difficult to focus. Max whimpered at my feet, his eyes darting back to the basement door. I needed to act, to figure out what was going on before whatever it was came back. I moved slowly, keeping the knife in front of me like a shield. The shirt still dangled, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that it was somehow significant. I reached out and grabbed it, holding it tightly against my chest. It smelled faintly of baby shampoo, a scent that felt out of place and made my stomach twist. The basement door creaked again, and I stiffened. Another tap followed, louder this time, a finger dancing on wood. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice wavering. No answer came, just silence that suffocated the air. A sudden thought crossed my mind. What if it was a prank? Maybe someone had figured out I was home alone and was trying to scare me. But the feeling in the pit of my stomach told me this was no ordinary trick, and I had to know the truth. I took a cautious step toward the basement door, half expecting something to leap out at me. My heart raced as I glanced back at Max, who was still fixated on the entryway, trembling. He wouldn't stop staring, as if he sensed something I couldn't yet see. Gathering my courage, I called out softly, "If you're down there, show yourself." The atmosphere shifted. The shadows flickered, almost like a heartbeat. For a second, I thought I saw a small hand reach out from the darkness, but then it vanished. I stumbled back, my grip on the knife tightening. Suddenly, a chilling laugh erupted from the shadows. It was childlike, yet sinister, sending ripples of dread up my spine. I spun around, looking for a place to hide, but the kitchen felt too open, too vulnerable. Then, something caught my eye. A stack of old photographs on the wall near the dining table. I'd almost forgotten they were there. Maybe they could help. The faint light illuminated faded laughter, carefree moments frozen in time. But they looked different somehow. I stepped closer and felt a wave of nausea hit me. In one photograph, a little girl grinned up at the camera, only her eyes seemed hollow. In another, she was playing in the yard. I squinted, realizing I recognized the tree behind her. It was my yard. The laughter had died down now, replaced by a sudden stillness that was just as unsettling. Max barked loudly, snapping me out of my trance. I turned back to the basement door just in time to see a flicker of fabric disappear down the stairs. My heart raced as the realization hit me. Whatever had been lurking was no longer just a shadow. It was something real, and it was inviting me to follow. I hesitated for a moment, fear gripping me, but curiosity gnawed at me, propelling me forward. I loosened my grip on the knife, knowing I couldn't let this go. Whatever this was, I couldn't let it control me. Taking that first step toward the basement felt like a leap into chaos. As I descended the stairs, the air grew heavy, thick with unspoken secrets. My breath caught as I scanned the darkness, desperate for answers. Then I noticed something shining faintly at the bottom, something that looked like a toy. And just as I reached for it, the lights flickered again, plunging me back into darkness. A voice echoed in the void, soft and mocking. "Come play with me." I froze, gripping the knife tighter. I was in deep now, and I had no idea what awaited me. I felt the darkness close in around me, thicker than fog. The voice lingered, chilling my bones, but instinct pushed me forward. I had to know what was down here. I took another step, feeling my heart pound in my chest. Suddenly, the light sputtered back to life, casting a pale glow across the basement. I looked down to see an old, rusted toy truck resting on the floor. It was covered in dust, with faded paint and 2 wheels missing. My breath hitched in my throat. It felt wrong, so out of place. As I knelt to retrieve the toy, my fingers brushed against something cold and metallic nearby. I turned, and my breath caught in my throat. It was a small metal box, locked tight. An old key dangled from a rusty hook on the wall to my right. My fingers tingled with an unsettling mix of curiosity and dread. The mocking laugh from before still echoed in my mind. "Come play with me." I couldn't shake the feeling that the toy and the box were connected to whatever was haunting this house. I stood up, toy in one hand, knife in the other, and moved closer to the key. That's when I heard it. A soft giggle, like a distant echo, wrapping around my head. Panic surged through me. Max began barking frantically, his voice rising with urgency. I glanced at him, then back at the key. Instinctively, I could feel eyes on me, watching from the darkness. "Who's there?" I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. No response, just that same eerie giggle, this time a little closer. The air grew colder, wrapping around me like ice. I snatched the key and turned to the metal box, my mind racing. Could I unlock the box and find out what it contained? Would it tell me more about the girl in the pictures? Or was it a mistake? Before I could decide, the giggle turned to a shriek. I jumped back, clutching the knife, my heart racing. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. The voices, the toys, it was all connected. I needed to leave. I backed away from the box, glancing over at Max, who was practically vibrating with fear. But something made me stop. The desire for answers overpowered my fear. I approached the box slowly, my hands shaking as I placed the key into the lock. Just as I turned it, the lights flickered violently, and darkness washed over the room again. My heart raced as I twisted the key, and then there was silence. Hanging in the air was a feeling of anticipation. A pause before a storm. Then everything went dark. Women's laughter echoed, louder now, almost like chanting. My breath hitched as I called out, "What do you want from me?" A sudden thud resonated through the basement, and I felt something brush against my leg. I gasped and stumbled back, dropping the knife. The basement felt alive, each shadow morphing into something more menacing. Max barked fiercely, and then I heard the giggle again, but now it was right next to me. I swung my flashlight around, desperate to see what was there. That's when I saw it. A small figure standing in the corner, just beyond the faint light. I stood frozen, rooted to the spot. "Who are you?" I managed to utter. But the figure only grinned, its eyes sparkling like glass, and beckoned me to come closer. I hesitated, caught between instinct and curiosity. The small figure tilted its head, a childish grin stretching across its ghostly face. My fear wrestled with the question burning in my mind. Was this the girl from the pictures? The shadows around the basement seemed to shift and swirl, and the laughter faded into a whisper. "Come, play with me." It felt like the air thickened, pulling me toward her. The urge to turn and run screamed through my veins, but I didn't. The box stirred my curiosity even more. "Max!" I barked, but he was still growling. His fur bristled as he stared into the dark corner. The little figure waited, silent, as if it was patient enough to let me decide. I took a tentative step closer. The flashlight flickered, dimming with each heartbeat. "Please, just tell me what you want," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The figure raised its hand, fingers elongated and thin, and pointed right at the metal box. My pulse quickened. Was it a warning? A promise? I glanced back at the box, still locked tight, and fear churned in my stomach. Inside was the unknown, and the connection was undeniable. I understood then that whatever was in that box might reveal more than I bargained for. I looked back at the figure, but she was gone. Only silence remained, and Max's growls turned to soft whimpers. I turned my flashlight back toward the box and took a shaky breath. My fingers felt clammy, but I moved to unlock it anyway. I would find out what it held. As I inserted the key, it clicked into place, and suddenly the light surged back on, bathing the room in an almost blinding brightness. I blinked against the light, dizziness threatening to pull me under. Then the box opened with a sharp creak. Inside, I saw scattered photographs, old and yellowing, mixed with scraps of fabric, and a small porcelain doll, its face cracked and stained. But one photograph caught my eye, larger than the rest. I pulled it out, exposing a close-up image of the girl, her haunted eyes staring right back at me. Just then, a loud bang echoed from the stairs leading up to the basement, snapping me from my trance. My heart dropped. Someone was in the house. "Hello!" I shouted, gripping the photo tightly. My stomach clenched in panic as I backed away from the open box. The laughter returned, clearer and more menacing, and it echoed against the walls, rising to a cacophony that filled my ears. "Max!" I called desperately, my dog darting to my side. He barked furiously at the darkened staircase, the hairs on his back standing straight up. The air turned electric as I heard footsteps above, each thud growing louder. I had to move. My breath quickened as I threw the doll back into the box and slammed it shut, sealing whatever energy was within. Taking a final look at the basement, I rushed toward the stairs, but just before I reached them, the lights flickered again, and I felt a chill slither down my spine. The laughter shifted from playful to sinister. What was waiting for me up there? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever was about to happen next. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step creaking beneath my weight. My heart raced as adrenaline pumped through me. The laughter was echoing in my head, making it hard to focus. Max nudged my leg, his eyes wide and anxious. "Stay close, buddy," I whispered. I had to keep my voice steady, but fear crept into my words. I reached the door at the top of the stairs and paused, feeling an odd pulling sensation, as if something was waiting on the other side. With a deep breath, I opened the door, and the hallway lights flickered back to life. The sudden light revealed a chaotic mess. Chairs knocked over, the front door slightly ajar, and a cold breeze drifted through. I stepped out, and Max stood firm beside me. "Who's there?" I called again, trying to present a brave front. I wanted to sound bold, but my voice was shaky. The silence was suffocating. It felt like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Then I heard it, soft whispers wafting through the open door. They seemed familiar, but indistinguishable. I edged closer, my gaze darting toward the living room. The sight that met my eyes froze me in place. There, on the floor, was a pile of old toys, scattered in disarray, and right on top was the porcelain doll I had just locked away. My breath caught in my throat. How was it here? I refused to believe my mind was playing tricks on me. "Max, stay," I whispered, inching toward the doll. It was facing me, its cracked face eerily smiling as if it had somehow come to life. I couldn't understand how it ended up here, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. I crouched down, trying to make sense of everything. My fingers brushed against the doll, and I felt a wave of energy surge through me, electric and unsettling. It was like the air between me and the doll vibed with some unseen force. As I started to pull away, a loud crash interrupted my thoughts. The kitchen door swung open with incredible force, slamming against the wall. The noise echoed loudly, making me jump. "What the hell?" I muttered under my breath, adrenaline kicking into overdrive. Max took a defensive stance, barking furiously and backing away. The whispers grew louder, almost chanting, swirling around me like wind. I stumbled back, and the doll toppled over, landing face down. It felt almost sinister, like it had an agenda of its own. I needed to get out of here. The house felt alive, and I was trapped inside. Just as I turned to flee, something caught my eye. A flicker of movement from the corner of the room. I hesitated. I had to see what it was. Then, I saw it. A shadow darting past, too quick to fully register. "Who's there?" I shouted once more, my voice echoing against the walls. I had no answer. Before I could act, the lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed me whole. I gripped Max's collar tightly, my heart pounding as I felt the presence draw closer. I was not alone. Fear gripped my chest as I stumbled forward, desperate to escape the encroaching shadows. I had to find a way out. But as I moved, the whispers crescendoed, filling my mind with chaos. And then, just like that, everything stopped. The shadows retreated, and there was only silence. I stood frozen, unsure of what would happen next. The silence stretched on, heavy and unnerving. I stood there, heart racing, waiting for some sign that the nightmare was over. My instincts told me to run, but my legs felt heavy, rooted to the spot. I squinted into the dark, trying to will my eyes to adjust, but it was like staring into a void. "Max?" I whispered, feeling a wave of dread. I turned my head slightly, hoping he was still with me. I could barely see him in the darkness, but I felt him shift closer, his warm body reassuring against my leg. Then, a soft noise brushed past my ear. A whisper, almost a sigh. "Get out." It was barely audible, a chilling melody that sent shivers down my spine. My breath quickened again. "What do you want?" I croaked, voice trembling. The hairs on my neck stood on end. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on with a flick and a pop. I blinked against the harsh glare and instinctively dropped to a crouch, holding Max protectively. What met my eyes was even worse than before. The doll was now standing upright, smiling at me with that cracked, painted face, its eyes glinting in the light as if it had secrets to share. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. How could it be standing? I had seen it topple over. I backed away slowly, my breath shallow, and then I saw it, a glint of metal peeking out from beneath the couch. Something was hidden there, maybe a key or something even worse. I was drawn to it, the curiosity battling my gut instinct to run. Max growled low in his throat, sensing my hesitation. "Okay, boy," I whispered, gathering my courage. "Let's check it out." I crawled on the floor, inching toward the sofa, anxiety growing with each movement. As I reached for the metal, the doll's head turned slightly, shifting to follow my every move. An icy chill washed over me. This was not normal. I quickly grabbed the object and pulled it out, my fingers trembling. It was a rusted key, old and ornate, covered in dust. "That's odd," I mumbled to myself, puzzled. I couldn't remember seeing a lock anywhere in the house. Maybe it belonged in a box or a door I hadn't discovered yet. A part of me wanted to leave it behind, but the other part said this could be the answer to everything. Just as I stood up, ready to take another look around, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps shuffling behind me. Careful, calculated, as if someone were trying not to be heard. I froze. My heart dropped. Then I felt a presence. It was heavier than before, an oppressive atmosphere closing in on me. I turned slowly, breath catching in my throat. There, at the edge of the living room, was a figure shrouded in shadow. My pulse quickened. I couldn't discern any features, just an outline that felt almost familiar. "Who's there?" I whispered more urgently. No answer came, but the figure took a step forward, and I knew in that moment there would be no escaping this. The sensation of dread ballooned in my chest as the shadows converged. I clutched the key tightly, eyes widening in a mixture of fear and determination. If I was going to get out of here, I had to face what was unfolding. And in that moment, a flicker of doubt crept in. I would have to confront whatever waited in the dark. The figure advanced, and my heart raced faster than I thought possible. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flee. But I stood there, transfixed, clutching the ancient key like it was a lifeline. Max growled low, his hackles raised, and I could sense his protective instincts surging through him. "Stay close," I whispered to him, my voice barely audible as the figure emerged from the shadows. The outline stabilized, revealing a woman in a long, tattered dress, her face obscured by a curtain of hair. My throat constricted. This wasn't just any stranger. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to maintain some semblance of courage. With each step she took, I could see the pale skin of her hands, fingers almost skeletal as they reached toward me. "Help me," she murmured, though it sounded more like a plea than a command. I couldn't tell if she was begging for salvation, or if she was about to bring ruin upon me. Before I could process her words, the doll behind me shifted again, its smile frozen, but somehow more menacing. Panic surged. This wasn't right. I had to move. "Max, let's go!" I shouted, turning to run, but the moment I took a step, a harsh laughter filled the air. It echoed in my mind, clawing at my sanity. I stumbled, trying to regain my balance, but I couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching me. "Stay!" The woman's voice rang out, urgent and commanding. My legs froze. Something compelled me to obey, but I fought against it. I couldn't trust her. I just needed to breathe and stay calm. As quickly as I could, I glanced around the room, searching for an escape route. My eyes fell on the staircase leading to the basement, a dark maw that whispered promises of safety. I darted toward it. The whispers intensified, swirling around me like a tempest. "Stop!" The woman reached for me, but Max lunged forward, barking ferociously, protecting our retreat. I needed to act fast. I wasn't sure what the key was for, but I took it and dashed into the basement, the door slamming shut behind me with a loud thud. Darkness enveloped me almost entirely, but the small light from the living room barely illuminated the steps. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself as Max pressed against my side. It was silent in the basement, and the weight of the world seemed to be resting on my shoulders. I focused on the key, its cold metal a stark contrast to the fear pulsing inside me. Then I saw it. A small chest in the corner, barely visible in the dim light. A padlock hung from it, rusted and old. But it was definitely there. A lock that matched my key. Should I open it? What if it held more horrors, or worse, more answers? Just as I reached out, the whispers flooded back, echoing warnings of danger. Then the lights above flickered again, sending a jolt of fear through me. I glanced back toward the stairs. It felt like the shadows were shifting, moving in against me, inching closer. I had to decide. Open the chest, or face the shadows above. With trembling hands, I inserted the key into the padlock. As it clicked open, an electrifying current surged through me. The whispers coalesced into a cacophony, a blend of laughter and cries intertwined in a haunting symphony. I hesitated for a moment, my instincts screaming at me to turn back, but curiosity and fear propelled me forward. I lifted the lid slowly, my heart racing with every inch. The chest creaked open, revealing a dark interior filled with dust and the remains of forgotten things. At first glance, it looked empty, but as I squinted to peer inside, I saw what lay beneath the layer of dust. Old photographs, more tattered clothing, and a small rusted tin that caught my eye. Reaching in gingerly, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The moment my fingers brushed against the tin, the whispers surged to a terrifying crescendo, drowning out every rational thought. My hands trembled as I pulled the small box out. I could feel energy radiating from it, a desperate urgency. Max whined low beside me, his fur bristled and alert. I glanced back toward the staircase, half expecting the figure to come charging back down. But the shadows seemed to linger, hesitating as if sensing the change in the air. In that moment, I realized I could either face whatever awaited me above or delve deeper into this nightmare, uncovering the truth that had been concealed for so long. I held the tin tightly, feeling its weight. Was it burdened with secrets of the past, or simply remnants of a life long gone? I slowly lifted the lid, and a rush of stale air wafted out. Inside were tokens of the past, a locket, some trinkets, and, most unsettlingly, an old scrap of paper, yellowed and fragile. As I unfolded it, my heart sank. It was a note written in a shaky hand. "I'm sorry," it read. "I didn't mean to—" The rest was smeared and illegible, but it was enough to send a chill racing down my spine. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above, snapping my attention back to the stairway. The woman's voice rang out again, faint but clear. "Why can't you help me?" Her tone was filled with anguish, clawing at the edges of my resolve. I backed away, clutching the tin like a shield. Max growled low, his instincts sharpening with every passing second. I had to decide, stay in this darkness and confront the weight of history, or face whatever threat loomed above. With adrenaline surging, I turned and sprinted toward the staircase. As I climbed, the laughter erupted again, swirling around me, a tempest of sound filling my ears. At the top, I flung open the door, stumbling into the hallway. But the light, it flickered and dimmed. I could see the woman clearer now, her features wrought with sadness and desperation. "Why didn't you stay?" she pleaded as the shadows coiled around her. I felt a mixture of pity and fear. She seemed trapped, tethered. "Please!" I shouted, desperation fueling my voice. "Just tell me how to help you!" But just as quickly as she had appeared, she was gone, disappearing into the shadows like smoke. I stood there breathless, feeling the weight of her longing and sorrow settle over me. But moments later, chaos erupted. The sounds of children laughing and crying bled together, a cacophony that left me reeling. I turned frantically, the shadows swirling thicker around me, blurring my vision. What had I unleashed? Retracing my steps, I gripped the tin and rushed back toward the basement door. Whatever haunted this house, and whatever bond it shared with the tokens I unearthed, was far from over. As I stepped back into the dim basement, I wondered if I would ever truly break free from this cycle of darkness. Or if the questions, was it a curse, a tragedy, or a mere trick of the mind, would haunt me forever. I moved forward slowly, Max at my side. A shiver raced through me, drawing me deeper. What awaited me in this darkness felt like a gamble, one where the odds were impossible to decipher. I paused, realizing I wouldn't escape this without uncovering the truth, no matter how tangled it was. I would either confront the past or let it claim me, especially now that I understood. Some stories are never truly over.